everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Dentistry with a Mango Voice. So today I'm super excited to have on a really good friend, a longtime friend, and I think one of the smartest people I know, Alan Twigg. So welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Kay. It's wonderful to be here. Super happy to be on. And yeah, looking forward to this.
So, Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, like what you do, your position, and we'll start there.
Sure. Yeah. So I am the president of a company called Bent Erickson and Associates, and we've been around for over 50 years. And basically what we do is we keep, the HR side of the practice humming along. And it's a mix of HR materials, guidance, updates, just all of the things that nobody really wants to do with HR. We've been working in this world for a long time. In my case, I've been in HR for over 20 years. I've been a part of Bent Erickson for a number of years, and I recently took it over from my father and my stepmom. And so, yeah, it's a family business, and we just love doing HR. That's kind of our thing. We know HR is not what most people like to do, and it's definitely not what a lot of dentists or veterinarians or other practitioners are excited about. But over here, we get excited about it. So it's, one less thing that they have to worry about.
And you work with a lot of the coaches too, don't you? As far as with, like, you worked with me, I was part of Bent Erickson, and that's kind of nice too. So you train not only just the dental teams, but you also have coaches that you train.
Yep. We have a certification process for coaches and trainers that where they can basically be an onboarding specialist and work with us, and allows them to kind of an extra way that they can serve their clients and help out and be involved in the HR while we handle all of the heavy lifting.
It's funny, Alan, you said, I will say this, and then we'll get to your questions. I love it because it seems like, as when I was a coach, the one thing I would get is the panic call. Like, I need a question. You don't think you need it until you need it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, big time. We get those panic calls all the time of, two employees are fighting, or this person just, did this. What do I do? Or even just something like, my main dental assistant is pregnant and I've never had a pregnant employee before. What do I do? How much time off do they get? There's so many questions and so many just life circumstances, right, that come up because we're dealing with people, and people have all that comes along with people for good and for bad.
Even more than that, what I think is amazing is that you're also dealing with different laws in different states. That's
Yeah,
the
big
big
time.
one to me. I mean, like, as I was a coach all over the US, and so I would call you and I'd be, in Chicago, and then I'd call you, I'd be in California, and it's like to know, you have to know all that, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So HR rules vary from state to state, and they also vary based on how many employees you have. So even two practices that are both in the state of Ohio, one has 5 employees, one has, say, 20 employees, slightly different rules. So yeah, it's a big piece of HR and HR compliance. It makes it a little bit more tricky than OSHA and HIPAA in that regard. But yeah, it varies quite a bit. And even at the city and county level, there's even some nuances in certain areas, certain cities there. So yeah, we have a whole team here that is, up to speed on all of those laws. We have a team here that maintains all of our materials, keeps everything up to date. And it's a big job for sure. Yeah.
It is, and I'll never forget, like, it's like, all of a sudden someone will call and they're like, "Oh, what's this like?" And they think, like, "Well, I've got my book because I just copied it from my friend. I got my HR manual," but do you hear that a lot? I do, and I'm like, "Oh, well, you have to, it's more than that. You have to really read it, understand it." And I think the best thing that y'all do, which y'all do a lot of great things, but if a law changes in a state, you immediately contact the office that you're working with, right?
Yeah, correct. So let's say Colorado is coming out with a new law. So we draft new language for the policy. Clients get an email alert. And then when they sign into the portal, they see a side by side of the old wording and the new wording. They can see exactly what changed. Or if it's a brand new law, it'll just be a new policy. And then with just a couple clicks within the portal, they can create a new handbook, they can notify their team, and the team can sign in and read the handbook online and then digitally acknowledge it. So it's very, very easy to stay in compliance over time because, yeah, you can't just write a handbook, put it on the shelf, let it collect dust because these laws change a lot and it's really important.
I think I've learned that from the offices that I've worked with, and I'll go, "Oh, where's your HR manual?" And they go, "Oh, it's this. My friend gave me this." I'm like, then I have to call you up and say, "Okay, now what do we do?" And and I love the forms that y'all also provide the offices too when they need information. I think that you have that at your fingertips, which is super nice. So I love having you in my pocket, and when I need you, I pull you out and go, "I need help." And I think every office needs that. I just wish they wouldn't wait until something happens to get it. That's the
Yeah,
only. Okay, I know.
exactly.
So I
Yeah,
know.
no, that's totally true. I mean, it's I know that HR is not sexy, it's not fun, it's not something that anybody wants to do. But yeah, the extent that you can be proactive with this stuff and documentation, clear expectations and so on, it makes a world of difference when something big comes up and, it's just it's a real important thing that people need to pay attention to. It's not something that takes a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of money, but it's really impactful.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too that I've also heard, I mean, because I guess I've gone with y'all for so many years that I've had so much experience, is that, one employee will say, "Oh, you're letting them off and you're not letting me off." But as a leader, you really have to have those good guidelines written down and you have to follow those guidelines. And if you do that, it's going to make your business more successful. It's going to make your team happier, right? But the problem is that we have to make sure that they understand those rules and those guidelines and that we follow them equally across the board. And to me, it would just take a lot of stress off a doctor.
Yeah, big time. I mean, we joke that, with a properly written policy manual, anytime an employee has a question, it's the same 5-word answer. Go look in the manual because, yeah, how much time off do I get? How does the dental benefits work? If the holiday falls on a weekend, what happens? When can I bring in my kids for dental work? I mean, all of that stuff should be spelled out clearly in the manual, especially so that when you hire a brand new person, you can just hand this to them. They can read it. There's no, "Oh, well, yeah, it says this, but really it's that," or, "Oh, we don't follow that anymore. We do it this." I mean, there should be none of that. It should just be, here's what it is. This is the expectation, and you're off and
100%. And I think that when you do it like that, it just makes your team happier and it makes the expectations clear. So, and it doesn't matter whether you have 5 people or 20 people or 100 people. I still think that having those guidelines, I even tell my new startups, you know what? Get your HR manual in place because that's what's going to spill out what you hire and what you're looking for and job descriptions. I mean, job descriptions are really important also, correct?
Yeah, yeah, job descriptions don't get enough credit, and I know I probably sound like a weirdo talking about job descriptions are really cool, but, job descriptions are so beneficial. When you go to post a job posting, you can use the job description. When you're building interview questions, you would use it there. Performance reviews, anytime someone is pregnant or claiming a disability or workplace accommodations, the job description is just so beneficial in so many different ways. And it's often overlooked. Usually people focus on the employee handbook, but the job description is really big, very, very important, very useful. And having those in place, it not only sets you up for success, it gives everyone a clear foundation. It also just it does protect you in case something, unfortunate or just something like again, regular life circumstances like pregnancy. Anytime that comes up, job description is super beneficial. And you also mentioned this idea of do you have 5 employees or a startup or whatever. Totally agree, because once you have just one employee, about 95% of all of the HR laws now apply to you. So it's a myth that, oh, once I have 50 employees, then I'll worry about this stuff. No, once you have just one employee, you are in the game with the vast majority of all the rules and laws, the wage and hour protections, pregnancy things, disability, et cetera. And again, it varies quite a bit based on the state that you're in. But again, once you have just one person, you're in the game with a whole bunch of stuff. So having that clear foundation and as a startup, having everything spelled out for a new hire, super beneficial.
Well, yeah, and I just think too, it's when it goes for a performance review, you can really and truly rate them on what you've asked them to accomplish in your office. And I'll start with your questions because I know we kind of got off track, but it's so easy to talk to you. But
Yeah.
I remember your dad, Tim, and I spoke together a lot, and he actually shared a case where they actually went to court, and it comes down to it. If you would have had this HR in place, it costs so much for a doctor to go to court and defend themselves, like, that's just not even something that you wanna go to. You know,
Yeah.
it's just better just to have a great HR manual and follow the law and have someone that can give you some good advice if you get in a situation where you don't know what to do.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a spectrum, right? I mean, on one end, you've got an office that doesn't have anything in place, and there is a serious thing, so state labor board investigation or a an actual lawsuit. And you're totally right that, fighting that in court, with lawyers and everything is insanely expensive. So that's why most attorneys that you would work with would say, well, let's just see what we can settle this for.
Yeah, that's what your dad
And
said.
that's really unfortunate because those out of court settlements can run, as little as $20,000. They can easily run up in the 100, $200,000 range if it's something that, is very, very much makes it look like you violated somebody's rights, even if you didn't intend to, but just if that's the way it looks on paper. And then if you have your ducks in a row and you have a good manual, you have job descriptions, you have documentation, you have the forms, when you have all that stuff in place, if something does happen, basically your attorney sends a letter back to this other attorney that says, your claims are essentially frivolous and here's all the evidence, here's all the documentation. And in the vast majority of cases when that happens, it just goes away because the attorney representing the employee goes to their person and says, look, this is a losing case. We're not going to, this isn't going to go anywhere. And the employee then can't afford to pay an attorney $10,000 to fight a case. So it goes away.
That's good
So,
to know. That's real
yeah.
that I mean, that's a good another good reason to have it. I was just curious, I have one more question. When a doctor does have to settle, does an insurance pay for that, or is that usually something a doctor has to pay out of his pocket? Like, let's just say I decide to settle. Do I have to give that $20,000, or is that usually covered under an insurance?
The only insurance that it might be covered under is EPLI, which is Employment Practices Liability Insurance. If you have an EPLI policy, the theory is that is supposed to kick in a situation like this. Just like any insurance, there are deductibles, there's fine print, there's loopholes, there's, special cases, there may be requirements that you have to maintain. For
Oh,
example, an up-to-date policy manual in order to even get it or to get a lower premium. So yes, EPLI insurance can help in a situation like that. If you don't have EPLI insurance, then yeah, you're paying out of pocket, just writing a check for however much it is. And
how many doctors didn't carry that? I mean, is that something that's pretty normal, or is that
it seems like it's becoming more common. I don't have any statistics on top of my head of how many carry it. I know that it has become more common, especially in states like California and New York that are very employee friendly, and there's a lot of complicated laws. But again, like any insurance, it's not a get out of jail free card. It may help you in one instance, but then once you have one case, now they increase your rates dramatically, like all insurances do. Or there may be limitations for the second or third claim. So EPLI insurance is best when it's done in conjunction with having a really great manual, having the systems in place, and so on. So if you have EPLI, but you don't have anything else in place, I would not say that that is, a good strategy because there's all the other benefits, which we can talk about, of having these things in place beyond just protecting you against a lawsuit. Yes, that's important. And there's so many other aspects to HR and why it's important as well.
it's probably and I would say that a lot of dentists may not even realize what EPLI is or has even looked into it. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay. So what are we seeing with the labor law market today? What's going on with it?
Yeah, so I'll say two parts of that. So one, the labor market in terms of hiring and everything right now is horrible. And we hear this from offices all over the country, especially with hygienists. We're seeing it, I think, across the board in vet as well as medical, just a lack of good people. What I always recommend folks spend time on with this is to really think about, if standing right here next to me was your ideal employee, whatever role it is that you can't hire someone for, if standing right here is this person who's got decades of experience, a great attitude, they get along great with their coworkers, the question that you have to answer is why should this person choose your practice versus the practice down the street? What is it about certainly the pay and benefits, those are important. But what is it about your culture, the employee experience, the career or continuing education opportunities? What is the rest of the team going to be like when this person starts on day one? All of those things matter tremendously when you're trying to attract good rock star people. So I recommend that people spend, 20 minutes, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and just write it all out. Anything that comes to your mind about our culture and how we operate and what's unique about us and why we're better than some practice down the street. Write all that down. This is one area where I'm okay with you using AI. Dump it into ChatGPT and say, write me a 3 to 5, punchy, splashy, attractive, little paragraph. And then you put that in your job postings, it's part of your interview process, because we're in a labor market where there's just a lack of supply of good candidates. So that means that every practice really needs to figure out how to set themselves apart from the practice down the street. And again, everyone wants to say, I have to offer the highest wages. I have to pay out, 10 weeks of PTO or no one will ever work for me. You just need to be competitive. Surveys from Gallup and other places consistently say that what people want is competitive wages. That does not mean you have to offer the absolute top. It just means you have to be in line. No, you can't get away with paying minimum wage to a dental assistant. That's never going to work. But you just have to be competitive, and you should be in line. And then all the other stuff about culture and everything else, that is what sets you apart. You need to be putting that in your job postings, because if someone's just looking at all these job postings, there's no way for them to say, this practice is really special if all you're saying is, oh, dental assistant wanted for 17 an hour. It's like, well, that doesn't tell them anything. This unique employment proposition, which is that phrase of why someone should choose your practice, that needs to be front and center everywhere. What is the employee experience? So that's just my number one tip when it comes to the labor market right now, which again, I know is super tight. It's super terrible. There's a lot of people that are trying to increase the supply of candidates. There's bigger long-term things about, making a career in dental or vet or medical be, really appealing and sexy, and outreach to high schools and college. There's all of that, which is important. But for right now, right here, something that a practice can start doing immediately is get that wording in place of why someone should choose your practice. Very important.
I think I have to go with you because, like, when I was looking at Mango, I was like, I was talking about all I heard was great things about it, like great things about it. I think that when a candidate sees that a doctor constantly has a change in employment, that's got to be a red flag, right?
Well, yeah, there's a certain amount of that is shifting. I mean, back however many years ago, that was like the biggest red flag ever. Nowadays, if someone is in a job for a year or two and then they switch, that's kind of normal. You may not like it, but I think to a certain extent, it's one of these things where you can make up whatever story you want, right? You can make up a story that, oh, this person is unreliable and they'll never stick around and no one wants to work these days and the kids these days can't handle hard work. You can make up those
Yeah.
stories. You can also make up a story that says, maybe they've been working for practices where the doctor or the owner is kind of a jerk. Maybe they are just treated like a number. Maybe they're working for DSOs or big corporate things, and this is someone that would really thrive in private practice. Again, you can make up whatever story
Yeah.
you want. So I don't know that automatically is a red flag. I mean, I think it's a matter of meeting the person, doing the interviews, definitely doing the reference checking. All of those things are really important so that you know what you're getting into. But I don't think that's an automatic red flag. I mean, if they've only worked at a job for a month and they only stay a month, yeah, that's probably a red flag, but yeah.
It's funny though, but even during COVID, I will say this: the teams that took care of their office, they kept their team members. Like I mean, we did a lot of interviews with Tim during COVID, and that was one of the things is like people are like, the ones that just didn't answer their phones, the ones that took care of their patients and their team members really made it through pretty good. So I think culture is super important, 100%. So what about risk and liabilities and being proactive?
Yeah, so we've talked about that a little bit earlier, and I'll expand on it a bit. So here are a couple stats. So one of the things that we do, as we talked about earlier, is we push out policy updates. So anytime there's a new law in a given state, for example, or there's a major change to an existing law.
Right.
So anytime that happens, we push out updates. So here's some numbers. So in the period from the beginning of 2016 through the end of 2019, or sorry, 2020, we pushed out 111 updates. So 111 updates nationwide during that period from 2016 through the end of 2020. Then from the period from the beginning of 2021 through the end of 2025, it was 328.
Wow.
And some people see that and they go, "Oh, well, it must have been because of COVID, no, COVID was only a couple of those. What this is it's states passing mandatory sick leave or paid family leave or added pregnancy disability accommodation laws. This is an ongoing trend that we just see as, in a sense, the new normal, that states and even at the federal level, there's even been some of these, even with all the stuff people would say about Washington dysfunction, all of that, there actually has been a lot of changes at the federal level and definitely at the state level. Now, to be clear, if you're in a state like Alabama or Mississippi, the number of changes is much less than if you're in California or Colorado or New York. But every state has had changes. There have been a number of things that have come out. There have been things from the something called the National Labor Relations Board a couple years ago that affected things nationwide. So that piece around updates and everything is really important. Now, the other thing I want to say about HR and structure and everything. So far, we've talked a lot about risk and liability and lawsuits and how to protect yourself and all of that. And yes, that is important. That is a risk. And let's think about what a rock star employee wants. Again, that person that we were talking about a second ago that is really great, great experience, great attitude. What type of work environment does that person want to be in? Well, we know the data from Gallup and other employee studies. We know that they want fairness. They want consistency. They don't want any misunderstandings. They don't want to work in an office where there's a lot of drama and a lot of chaos and all of that. That's what a rock star person wants. So how do you build that environment? It's all of the exact same stuff that we've been talking about. It's having a really good, clear, professionally written policy manual. It's having job descriptions. It's having clear documentation. All of those things create fairness, consistency, and they avoid misunderstandings. And then, especially when a brand new person comes into your practice, we don't have a bunch of trust and goodwill that's been built up over years and years and years. This person is brand new, and first impressions matter. So in that case, we have got to make sure that we stack the deck in our favor so that everything is good and clear and positive from day one. We don't want this person, a week into the job going, well, hey, I wanted to bring in my son for a cleaning. And they go, oh, no, you have to wait 90 days. And they go, well, but your handbook says I get it immediately. Just things like that just poison the well. Because again, practices want rock stars. That's who we should be hiring. And rock star employees want consistency and fairness. And the good news is you don't have to build like two different HR systems. You just build one HR system of a good manual, job descriptions, and documentation. And that basically protects you against the lawsuits and it sets you up for success with good employees. So it's like two birds with one stone.
And it's simple. You can apply. I mean, you can get it at any time, right? There's no you can if you have an HR manual right now and you want to make sure it's up to date, you guys look at that, correct?
Yeah, we have a service where we will take your current manual, go through it cover to cover. One of our HR specialists will review it. They'll identify what's missing, what's lacking, basically give you a very detailed multi-page report with all of the findings. And from there, you can decide, okay, yeah, this thing's actually in really good shape. I'm good. Or you may go, ooh, yikes. I thought this thing was good and it's actually got a lot of issues. And then maybe you work with us. So lots of options there.
Well, I think that's good though, but the number one thing I hear is be a good leader, have a good policy in place, and not only once it's in place, you also have to follow it.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, that's an important part. You do have to take the time to kind of actually know what it says and follow the policies and all of that. But the beauty of it is just it's a system, right? That's what we are providing. We're providing a turnkey HR system that will build success, because the reality is all of your practice big goals, whatever those are, you want to go fee for service, multiple locations, you just want to grow your profitability. You have to have a good team in order to do that. And in order to have a good team, you need these really good HR systems in place. So yeah, that's really what it's all about. And whether you work with us or you work with another company, but just having those systems in place is so critical in 2026. If we were having this conversation 20, 25 years ago, it'd be like, yeah, maybe you could get away with this. There's not very many law changes. But nowadays, those number of changes. Also, the other thing, too, that people need to remember is that employees are much more aware now than they were 20 years ago. I mean, nowadays, they can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, we're going to a continuing education event. Am I supposed to get paid for that? Now, again, to be clear, I do not recommend using AI for your HR compliance. But the point is, it steers people in enough of the right direction that it's a risk. And it just means that you can't skate by and go, oh, my team would never do anything, or, oh, no one will ever find out about this new law. It's fine. Because the risks in 2026 are totally, totally different than they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Well, and I think the internet has made everyone more aware too. Like everyone's more educated on what's right, what's wrong. And so keeping up with that is super important. So thank you so much. Now, if someone wants to contact you, we will add your email address and your phone number so they can reach out to you, and I'm sure they can make an appointment with you to kind of just go over it, and you can do an intro.
Yeah, definitely. So folks can reach out to us. We'll do a complimentary consultation with you, see where you're at, what you've got, and then we can, give any recommendations or next steps that we might suggest. So yeah, that's all easy to do. And our website is benterickson.com, and folks can reach out that way. Like you said, we can do an email as well. So lots of options.
Well, listen, thank you so much. I mean, I always learn from you every time I come on with you. I mean, HR, but I love how you started. I love how you said the culture is so important. The job market right now, you really want to build a good culture. And the best thing that you can do is take good care of your employees and your team members. And the best way you can do that is have a good manual in place so that when someone asks, what were those 5 words?
Go look in the manual.
Yeah, that's all you got to
Yeah.
ask. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you so much, Kay. It was a pleasure.
Bye bye.